And joining us to break things down, Dr. Dana Cheng, senior editor for China News for the Epoch Times. Dr. Cheng, good to have you with us again.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Dr. Cheng, since we talked last, we've had extended protests. There was also a city council vote, if you will. The people of Hong Kong rising up, throwing out the existing leaders that were there because they didn't think they were giving them the fair opportunity. But now there's been clashes. There's been violence. How does this play out, Dr. Cheng?
Well, Hong Kong people had a large gathering to celebrate U.S. passing the bill to support Hong Kong's human rights. And that's a real pressure on Communist Party, on CCP. Right now, Hong Kong is still indispensable to China. 2/3 of investment, foreign investment to China goes through Hong Kong. So that bill from U.S. is a real pressure on China. So they still want to kind of put out the protest, but Hong Kong people have changed their slogan. At the beginning, they say Hong Kong 加油, meaning like keep up. They are targeting the Hong Kong government. They never targeted on Beijing. And now they are saying 天灭中共, like the heaven is crushing the Communist Party. That's the new slogan. So they are totally resisting the Communist Party openly. They never dared to do that before.
So why do they think now? Why do the protesters, and so just so we can draw the picture of this, because the U.S. fake news media refuses to cover it. They certainly refused to cover the demonstration last week after the U.S. In the Senate passed the resolution of young people going around chanting USA, 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 holding U.S. flags, holding the American flag. You couldn't find that anywhere in the fake news media, right? Because they do what they do. So what is that? What is it that has given the, let's call them freedom protesters, for the sake of a better term, the younger people there, what has given them the confidence to be able to take to the streets, hole up in buildings where in the past they just wouldn't do this?
Well, they feel Hong Kong is a frontier of free world. Hong Kong is like Berlin 30 years ago. They are on the frontier fighting with the communist system. So all the problem we have in trade and everything, it's between the free world and the communist regime. So Hong Kong people is not just fighting for Hong Kong, and they are fighting for the whole free world. So they feel very encouraged that U.S. and the countries in the free world understand them and stand with them. And that gives them so much confidence. And people in Hong Kong, actually people in China, people, not the Communist Party, not the government, people look up to United States. They
right.
look at the U.S. as the beacon of the freedom, as
right.
the leader of the free world. So they are very, very grateful.
Don't you find it ironic that we have all these young people in Hong Kong chanting USA, carrying around U.S. flags, and looking at the U.S. as their beacon of light for freedom, as opposed to living in an oppressed state? And right here in the United States, we have a movement to go towards socialism. Don't you find some irony there, Dr. Cheng?
Yes. If you tell people in China, like American people, some American people who want to go for socialist, they will not understand, because for the rest of the world, their dream is to come to United States and live free, and it's a free market and not socialist system. What's a socialist system? And those who want that system should live in China for a while to have a taste. You know, socialists try to take wealth from wealthy people and share with the poor, and they say that's a share of wealth, but actually it's actually share of scarcity. All the socialist system, communist system, never succeed in any country. They all become very poor. And China become rich because of America in the last 30 years. America opened the market to China so that Chinese people can make a lot of products and for the export.
Right.
And because of the deficit, at the cost of the deficit of this country, the wealth have flowed for the last 30 years from U.S. to China. If we have a fair trade, that system will not be sustainable.
Right.
If we have a fair trade, just be fair, fair trade. It's not going to, the communist system, socialist is the initial stage of a communist.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of a system never succeeded in any country.
Well, Dr. Cheng, and we're with Dr. Dana Cheng. She's the senior editor for China News for the Epoch Times. A lot of people are looking at this, and those that choose to delve into it, and say, okay, how long is the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese leaders who are communist, how long is the China Communist Party going to put up with this? And everybody's kind of feeling, look, this is inevitably going to end in some kind of a bloody, violent episode, kind of like Tiananmen Square. Maybe not on that scale, but I'm taking from what you're saying that might not be the outcome that everybody's expecting, because the protesters are getting more bold.
Well, a communist party is having crisis at every direction. It's having a trade war with U.S. It has Hong Kong problem. They are protests every day inside China. Protests every day. And just every direction they turn is a crisis. So it's at the verge of getting collapsed. So
when you say there's protests every day in China, this is in mainland China, Dr. Cheng, right?
Yeah, exactly. There are protests every day in China, at a different part of the country. But because Communist Party control the media and social media so well, so outside, not many people know about it.
How are they able to control social media throughout such a vast land? I mean, how are they able to do that, Dr. Cheng?
Well, thanks to the help of technology from the United States. Technology made it easier to control.
When the Chinese Communist Control Party steals the technology from the U.S., they then take that knowledge, and now they've put sort of a firewall around the mainland so that I can't communicate on social media if I'm in Beijing or other parts of the country like I would be able to do everywhere else.
If you communicate on the social media and talking about the topic the communists doesn't want you to talk about, they have a technology that it will be automatically blocked, or they have an army of internet police that can delete it, or a police can end up at your door. So people are very conscious. They don't talk about something that would push a wrong button.
So the protests that are going around in mainland China in different areas, they're not open to the media. It's kind of like they're happening, but we're not seeing them. So they're not pushed out on social media. They're not covered by Western media or even free Far Eastern media, like outlets like Al Jazeera, for instance, can't cover it either. So no one's covering it. So you have no idea what is going on. But I guess I've had a couple people on, like Dr. Rick Fisher and others that are experts in the area, who told me, John, inevitably this has to end up in Hong Kong, in a bloodbath. I mean, it has to end up that way. Eventually, they bring in the tanks and people get massacred, and that's the end of it. But what you're saying today is maybe that isn't fait accompli. Maybe there is. What would be? How would the freedom protesters in Hong Kong be obliged in a compromise that you think the Communist Party in the mainland could live with?
Well, it is not just Hong Kong alone that can bring down the communists. I think if the Western countries in the free world, I mean, including Japan and all those countries, if we stand united and support Hong Kong and stand up to communist China, I don't think it will end up that way. So right now it's uncertain. It largely depends on how the rest of the world support Hong Kong.
So if there's a sort of a Western global basis of support for Hong Kong, that could put increased financial pressure on the Communist Party of China, and then the option of wiping the protesters out, like at Tiananmen Square. Those of us that lived through that and remember it was just a horrific situation, and no one did anything. I mean, everybody just stood around and watched it, and just turned the TV off, as I remember.
Exactly. U.S. hasn't taken the human rights issue in China seriously for past 30 years.
Why?
So this Hong Kong Act, well, the country has been too busy doing business with China. Now, this is the first time this Hong Kong bill, and now another bill about the Xinjiang is going on in Congress. So the war between U.S. and China, and it's not between two countries, it's between the free world, universal value, and the communist regime. And this war has moved from trade to human rights area, and it will extend to other areas too. So that will increase the pressure on Communist Party. Mm-hmm. Communist Party is at the verge of getting collapsed.
So it sounds like, Dr. Cheng, what you're saying is the best thing that the U.S. can do is to keep applying political and economic pressure to the Chinese in the hopes that within, say, the next decade, that the party starts to wither from within. And because unemployment there is rising, their trade situation with us is causing the government to now run a bigger debt, right? Because they're not getting the cash from us that they were. They're not stealing this stuff. They were all this, by the way, as a result of President Trump's America First policy. So what you're prognosticating here is Western economic and political pressure could squeeze the Communist Party in China, where they either wither from within or there's they have to institute major reforms, right?
They're not going to reform. They will never change. They only believe in guns. And their system is like a cancer. And that's why they keep expanding to other countries. It doesn't sustain itself. So if, people defend themselves, just other countries just defend themselves, it will collapse itself. And they have so many crises inside. And Epoch Times has published a series on Communist Party called 9 Commentaries on Communist Party, talking about the history, how many people they killed, 80 million Chinese people, innocent people, they killed after the war. Yeah. So many people register on the website outside China and saying they withdraw from the party. That never happened before. There's millions and millions have withdrawn from the party. That's like burning or falling apart from inside, and that's a very big thing.
All right, we're out of time. I want to thank Dr. Dana Cheng for being with us, senior editor for China News for the Epoch Times. Dr. Cheng, always great to have you